Well, hey, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on the weekend. We didn't do an open mic on Friday. We had some scheduling stuff come up, so I thought, you know what? Let's not let it just kind of slide under the radar, because we also missed another one last week because I had a dental appointment. So I thought I would come in today. Anne is off at the Los Angeles Fitness Expo right now with her sister Olive. So I thought I would take advantage of this time and come in and do an open mic today. We don't do a lot of these on the weekend, so I thought I would come in and do that. And hello to everybody who is here and watching live already. Dr. Stinky, Michael Jones, Eve, Mark24 Gaming, King Daddy Goat, Jurgen, Anne, John Norris, Orange, everybody who's in the live. We've got hundreds of people in there. So it's good to have you guys here as we're here to talk about the things that you want to talk about, because on open mic, the mic is open, the floor is yours. Whatever you guys want to talk about in the world of movies, movie news, TV, and streaming, and all that good stuff, that is what we are here to do. Good to have you guys here with us today. So, big debate going around the Campea household is, do we get tickets to go see the Taylor Swift concerts going on at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles? I think she's playing like 5 nights. Like, here's the thing. I'm a little disconnected from the whole music scene right now, but I knew Taylor Swift was big, right? I didn't realize that she was like hands down, bar none, nobody else on the planet is even coming close, the biggest movie or music act in the world. I had no idea, because like she's got like 5 or 6 nights sold out at SoFi Stadium, the brand new stadium where the LA Rams go and play football. And they all sold out. Beyonce is also coming to LA, but she's playing in a smaller venue and not as many nights. And the tickets to her show are not as expensive. Like, you gotta understand, the Taylor Swift, I had no idea. The Taylor Swift shows, they're in this giant, I don't know, 60,000 seat football. I don't know how many seats are in SoFi Stadium. The place is huge. And even in the top nosebleed sections, the tickets where you're like literally 150 yards away from where Taylor Swift is going to be, the nosebleed sections were going for like $1,200 a ticket. $1,200 a ticket. It is absolutely nuts. TLH is saying Bad Bunny is bigger than Taylor Swift. Nah, not even close. Not even close. Like Bad Bunny can't come to LA and sell out 5 nights at SoFi Stadium in a row with tickets in the nosebleeds going for $1,500. Like, it's just, I had no idea. And you know, she's really good. You know what? I am not what you would call a Swiftie. I could recognize a couple of her songs playing on the radio, but you know that new album she put out a few months ago? Anne played it constantly in the car. I gotta say, it's a really good album. And I am no Swiftie, but I gotta say her newest album is pretty good. I was just floored at that. So instead, though, I think I'm getting Anne like some front row tickets at another Jonas Brothers concert. She's been to like 5 Jonas Brother concerts. She totally loves the Jonas Brothers. She would completely leave me for Joe Jonas, probably like that, but I'm okay with it. He's a handsome dude. So, I mean, I'm okay. I'm a very secure person. I don't get threatened by anything. And so, like in my mind of thinking, I think, man, because a lot of guys' wives would leave them for a lot less. Like a lot of guys' wives would leave them for, you know, the not so maybe the kind of fugly mailman that comes along, right? No disrespect to mailmen, huge, awesome, tough job, very important work you guys do. But I'm just saying, a lot of guys' wives would leave them for that. For me, the standard for my wife, the standard is way higher. It's got to be like Joe Jonas, Justin Timberlake, and I think that's about it. I think that pretty much exhausts the list, and that makes me a very secure man, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, we are not here to talk about Taylor Swift or, oh yeah, I forgot Aiden Foley throw out. The other person Anne would leave me for is Haley Steinfeld. Yes, Anne is completely crazy for Haley Steinfeld. That's the third on the list of who Anne would leave me for is Haley Steinfeld. All right. With all that down, guys, let's get into it here, shall we? We're going to start off with the tip questions. Now, as you guys know, there's two different ways for you to send in a question for us to address on open mic. The first way is if you're watching this video any of the 23 hours of the day that we don't do it live, you can send it into our tip link. You'll find a link to it in the description of this video. It's streamelements.com/John Campea/tip. And you can send in a tip link question there anytime 24/7, and we'll get around to it either in the next or the one right after that open mics. Or the other way is if you are watching live, you can use the super chat feature in the live chat and send it in that way. And if your question is appropriate to be read on our show, we'll read it here on the show. All right. With that down, let's get started off with the tip questions that have come in. Timey Wimey writes in, R.I.P. Sinead O'Connor. Possibly her last work was doing the theme song for Outlander Season 7, which is airing currently. Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Hits differently now. I was really surprised when I heard about the passing of Paul Rubens. Obviously, I mean, I had no idea that dude was 70. No idea. I would have pegged him at like late 50s. That being said, it was also kind of out of nowhere that we heard about the death of Sinead O'Connor. And it was only a couple of years ago that she sang the intro music for Conor McGregor. Like at one of the big UFC, she was there on the platform in the stadium singing this Irish ballad as Conor McGregor came walking out. And yeah, I mean, really, really sad. I mean, her song, like, she wasn't a one-hit wonder, but like the one song she'll always be remembered for is Nothing Compares to You, right? That kind of like defined an entire couple of years of music, and it was really, really sad to hear. All right. Baked Orc writes, it's game day. Baldur's Gate 3 is now out. Happy crying orc noises. #1 on Twitch right now. I'm going to play a half orc, strength-based, 2H great weapon master, beast master, and do one-shot kills from big damage, baby. What will you guys be playing? I'm not sure yet, but I believe today. Like, help me on the live chat. I think Ray told me that it's not available on the consoles yet, so, which is probably fine. I think I want to play it on PC anyway. So I don't have a PC at home right now. I have a PC in our gaming room here in the studio. A pretty good game. I mean, it doesn't have like a 4080 and everything, but we got a 3080 video card in it, and a 32 core processor. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So I think, since Anne is going to be off at this fitness expo, probably for the next 3 or 4 hours, I think once we're done our open mic here, I think I'm going to go into the gaming room in the studio and buy me some Baldur's Gate 3. I'll tell you what, seriously, I remember when they showed the first demos for this like 2 years ago, and at least it feels like it was like 2 years ago. And like they were talking about how it's going to be like the most authentic Dungeons and Dragons playing experience you can have playing on a video game. And I watched some demo and I got super excited, like really, really excited. And now the day is here. I'm going to download it. I'm going to start playing it today. And if I can get the handle of it, I'll probably do some play-in chats this week. King Daddy Goat is asking, what is the Fitness Expo? It's literally what it sounds. It's at the LA Convention Center, and it's a big thing with like fitness experts and fitness products and like energy drinks and exercise equipment and, you know, all this kind of stuff, all things fitness. Anne and her sister are both. Anne's sister, well, you gotta understand, my wife's sister, let me see if I can pull up an image of her here. Just so you guys can see a pic of her. So Anne's sister, Olive, it's her older sister, is a major fitness person, like totally into fitness. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of her here. And she is married, like Anne married a good Canadian kid, and Anne's sister also married a good Canadian kid. She married my brother-in-law, Stan. And Stan is 6'7" and a bodybuilder. And so Anne's sister and her are both like totally into. Let me see if I can bring this up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. I'm going to try. Well, there's Anne, her mom, and her sister. And so Anne and her sister are both totally into fitness and working out and all that kind of stuff. So every year for the last 3 years, they get together and go to the fitness expo. And they come back with like backpacks full of free drinks. Like literally last year they came home with like 40 cans of like free energy drinks and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and Stan was a full NCAA scholarship basketball player as well. And he probably would have went pro, but he suffered an injury. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Let's get back on topic here. So yes, want to try out playing Baldur's Gate 3 today. Okay, next up. We got Anonymous who writes, one of two. Chris, don't get mad. Well, Chris isn't here. Chris normally isn't here for open mics, just so you guys know. Chris, don't get mad when I ask this, but how exactly does protection from AI work for writers/actors? I mean, to me, that seems like Blockbuster wanting protection from Netflix or taxis wanting protection from Uber. If AI brings something better to the table, why should writers, actors, or any other field of work get protections? Can you tell me where I'm wrong here? Okay, so I see where you're going with your like rotary phones had to make way for cell phones, right? Taxi drivers, you know, their industry got hit hard by Uber. But AI is shit. And here's the thing. Uber doesn't steal something from taxi drivers. See, AI writing is really just like ChatGPT, for example, is just, it scours the web and pulls its information from what's out there on the web. ChatGPT and stuff like that and AI is really just a major plagiarizing machine. I mean, really, when you boil it down, I was watching one of my favorite tech YouTubers, and they boiled it down to that really in a lot of ways, when you come to these advanced chat, AI, they're really just major plagiarism machines. On top of that, where you want your protection from, if you're a writer, is studios lifting your work or taking your work and then bastardizing your work in with AI, where it's not really even your work anymore. See, you can't say the same for a taxi driver, right? It's not like the taxi driver gets hired by somebody to drive them to the restaurant, but then Uber sneaks in after the taxi driver has taken them most of the way, sweep in and steal them out of their cab and throw them in their car and then take them the rest of the way. That's more of an appropriate analogy there. So AI sucks ass. It completely sucks when it comes to writing. But it can be used to both plagiarize and bastardize an existing writer's work. And that's one of the big things they're really concerned about. Writing should be done by art. The art should be done by artists. And that's one of the main things that they're really concerned about here. But it's a totally fair question to ask. All right, let's keep going here. Let's see here. Anonymous also writes, what are your thoughts on Ken Russell's The Devils and the controversy surrounding it? I learned about it from the critically acclaimed podcast, which is great, by the way. They would make for great guests on the show. By the way, I don't have guests on my show. I want to watch it, but it's hard to find. Yeah, that's the one with Oliver Reed? I want to say Oliver Reed. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, The Devils is like a 1970s movie. It's always heavily censored and edited. But I don't know what specific controversy you're referring to. So I'm not really sure. Is it, by the way, guys, am I right? Is it Oliver Reed? Is that the one who stars in The Devils? Let me know in the live chat. I know there's like a 10-second delay, but I'll keep my eye on that. But I think it was Oliver Reed. I think it's the guy who was in Gladiator with Russell Crowe. I think that's the one he was in. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the right one. But I'm not, again, when you say the controversy, well, other than the fact that it was very edgy, particularly for the era that it was made, I'm not really sure which specific controversy you're referring to. So unfortunately, I can't answer that directly. Oh, and Orange Hand is saying, yes, it was Oliver Reed. Okay, yeah. So I am thinking of the right movie. Thank goodness. All right, next up. Let's see here. Richard writes, Hi, did you hear that Taylor Swift gave out 55 million? Yes, I did hear about this, which is crazy. Did you hear that Taylor Swift gave out 55 million in bonuses to her tour crew, including 100,000 to each truck driver? She is always great. You know what? I did hear about that. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome, because apparently the production of her show and the touring aspect of it is a nightmare. It's a huge undertaking. And apparently she gave out like $100,000 to every single member of her crew. I didn't hear that the final number came out to be like 55 million, but I mean, we all freaked out, and appropriately so. We all freaked out when The Rock gave like over $1 million to the Actors Guild. Well, Taylor Swift gave out like $55 million in bonuses. Like there's already what they get paid, and then in bonuses paid them like all that extra. That's pretty remarkable. Now I'm seeing somebody say this, Ice Ness is saying pocket change for Taylor. Doesn't matter if it's pocket change for Taylor. There are a lot of people that kind of number would be top pocket change for, but they still don't give out that kind of money. And that, again, I am no, what do they call them? Swifties? I am no Swiftie, but I got tip of the hat. That's a pretty cool thing. That is a pretty cool thing for her to do. I got to admit. All right. Next up. Who do we got? We got Paul Dean, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. I nearly burst out laughing at work with Chris's reply to women be shopping." That was funny. Talking of Barbie, I work with someone who hates Barbie without even seeing it. Yes, he's one of those quote unquote men. Thanks for all you do and bring on the filthy. Yeah, it basically revolved around, for those of you who didn't see us do it, we were talking about, I can't remember exactly what the context was, but it was like a comparison to an Iron Man movie. And he says, well, women aren't shopping in it or something like that. And Chris had a great response to it. It was actually really, really, really funny. Yeah, but let me say something a little bit controversial here. Okay, you mentioned like a lot of these people who hate Barbie without even seeing it. Can I just say this? And I mentioned something this on my threads, which, by the way, like when you see my handle down there, that is not Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it. I have shut down my Twitter. I haven't really used it in about, I maybe put up 1 or 2 posts in the last 4 months. So I finally just deactivated my Twitter. But at John Campea is where you can find me on Instagram, and it's where you can find me on Threads. And I kind of like the much smaller, more intimate feel about that kind of stuff. But anyway, so yes, you can find me at John Campea on Instagram. Please go follow me there, or on Threads if you are on Threads. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, everybody get on Threads. No. I actually kind of like it feeling more intimate. But by all means, follow me on Instagram. So I put this up on my social media the other day. And what is really struck me about these Barbie haters, who 90% of them never even seen the movie. And by the way, Barbie is not going to end up in my top 5 favorite movies of the year. Like I don't think it compares to the quality of an Oppenheimer or stuff like that, right? But it's a good movie. It's quite a good movie. I really enjoyed it. But here's the thing. This is what really gets me. There are jokes in Barbie about men, but there are also a lot of jokes, sharp, harsh jokes about women. Like one of the things that really stood out to me about Barbie is, and you might have heard me say this before already, but the main moment of the movie, the absolute most important scene of the movie is when America Ferrera is talking to Barbie when she's having her breakdown and going through this big laundry list of all the challenges of being a woman and all the things that make it really hard to be a woman. I can't relate, but I can hear her talking about it, and her communication works well. And as she's giving this big laundry list of all the hardships of being a woman, if you pay attention to the scene, some of the things that she mentions are done by men. Most of them are done by women. And a few of them are as a result of the society that we have built. In other words, she lays out this big long list of the hardships of being a woman. And the message of her speech is nobody is to blame because everyone is to blame. Men are part of the problem. Women are a part of the problem. The society we've built is part of the problem. Everything's the problem, right? The movie does not blame men. Anybody who tells you otherwise is an insecure little puss, all right? So anybody who tries to tell you otherwise is just an insecure, fragile little snowflake puss. So that being said, here's the thing that really got me as I was thinking about this the other day. There are a lot of jokes about women, but there are some jokes made about men in it, right? And you get all these men. Sorry, they're not even men. Like I'm sorry, they're not even men. They're men. People who happen to have been born with penises, but they're certainly not real men. But some of these men freaking out, it's like, oh, they're attacking men. They're attacking men. But these are the same people. Follow me here. These are the same people when others get offended by jokes or certain types of humor. And believe me, I'm one of the guys that I believe we should be able to joke about everything. I kind of believe is the same way that the guys from South Park believe. That I believe we have humor is an important tool for us as a human species. I believe we should be able to joke about everything. I'm just saying that most of these pseudo men who go, oh, Barbie is attacking me. It's because I'm a man and that movie's attacking men. I'm offended, right? These are the same people who, whenever another group talks about being offended by a certain story or a type of joke or whatever, right? They go, oh, they're just too sensitive. Get a sense of humor. It's just a joke. Come on, people got to stop being so sensitive. They are the same people that say that then as soon as Barbie comes out and hey, listen, I'm a secure man. I'm not threatened by anything. If you're a real man, you're not threatened by things. But anyway, these are the same guys who go, oh, they just need to stop being so sensitive. Get a sense of humor. Lighten up. It's just humor. It's just a joke. You got to be able to take a joke. And the moment Barbie comes out and makes some jokes about men, they go like, oh, they're attacking me. Oh, they're attacking, and I'm so insecure. I'm so dickless. I have no sense of self-worth or security, so I freak out at everything like a little fucking puss. It's the exact same people that scream at others, get a sense of humor, but as soon as they make a joke about men, it's like, oh my God, Seriously, the amount of estrogen flowing through the veins of some of these so-called men is just hilarious to me. Anyway, there's that. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, let's move on here, shall we? Let's see. Here's the problem. I shouldn't do open mics alone. I shouldn't do open mics solo because I tend to get sidetracked a lot more easy. Like when I got Jonathan and Ray here, they tend to keep me more on track, and I kind of go off the rails a little bit when I'm doing these things alone. I really shouldn't do these alone. All right. Anyway, let's see. The Super Ranger Mud Truck writes, hey, John and crew. Well, Ray and I share a birthday. Oh, cool. August 1st is mine. It's 1998, but it's awesome to know I share a birthday with Ray friggin' Aura. Let's go. Yeah, we've been celebrating Ray's birthday this week, both here in the office and around the Aura and Campea households. Of course, I'm always shocked. I just assume everybody knows Ray is my brother-in-law, but I'm always shocked to find out how many people, like almost daily, I see somebody go, wait, Ray is John's brother-in-law? Yeah. Ray is Ann's brother, I should say. So yes, we are a one big happy family. All right, let's go on. Next up. We've got Chloe, who writes, a funny moment at work. A producer of the Meg came in asking a coworker for a DVD copy, then asking if they liked it, with them replying no, with the producer then shaking the movie at them saying, don't you be telling people my movie was bad. Retail story. That's funny. I like that. And it sounds, I don't know for sure because I wasn't there, but it sounds like you're saying the producer is being a good fun about it, some shaking thing, and don't you tell people my movie's not good. Yeah, listen, I'll tell you what. I I know a lot of people like the original Meg, and I respect that. I love Jason Statham, but I did not like the first one either. I didn't hate the first one. I just didn't like the first one. The second one was awful, man. Like really, really awful. I mean, Ray and I were talking about it more yesterday, and Ray said, no, seriously, I've been thinking about it. I think Meg 2 is the worst film I've seen in years. Now it's all subjective. Jedediah Elias is asking in the live chat, how bad is Meg 2? Is it Thunder Force bad? No, it's not. To me, it's not Thunder Force bad. That's a whole different level of the basement is Thunder Force. But it's quite bad. It has its moments though. I mean, Meg 2 has its moments, and I can understand why some people will go into that movie and come out saying, hey, you know what? I had fun with that. That's great. That's the beautiful thing about the subjectivity of film. Even if I hate something, somebody else may like it, right? Just because you don't like something doesn't mean somebody else can't. And I celebrate that. That's one of the best things about movies and the art. But yeah, man, for me though, I was pretty disappointed. I was pretty disappointed by that whole thing. It's just because I am such a big Jason Statham fan, right? I'm such a big Jason Statham fan. Like I want to love everything he does. I just want to be able to watch something that he does and just love it, right? I just want to be able to tell people it's great. I want to be able to tell people everything he does, you should go and see. I want to be able to just celebrate everything because I really like him. I think he's fantastic. But we don't always get what we want. And Meg 2 is one of those situations where we did not really get what we wanted, but others are enjoying it. And that's great. If somebody else likes it, that's the great thing about movies, man. All right, next up. Human After All writes, dudes and dudettes, Major League Butt Kicking is back in town. Happy belated birthday, Ray. Yesterday, the 3rd, was my birthday. So this was obviously sent in a couple days ago. The 3rd was my birthday, and I celebrated with watching TMNT. Nice. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Love the new iterations of all the characters. Cheers. I'll tell you what, listen, you guys have heard me say this before. One of my favorite things as a movie fan is going to a movie that I'm not expecting anything good from and being really pleasantly surprised, right? I talk about that experience of mine with the first Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. Now, unfortunately, 95% of the time when we think a movie looks like crap, it ends up being crap, or at least we end up feeling like it's crap. But every once in a while, a movie comes along that you really have no expectations for, and it really delivers in a surprising way. And for me, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is one of those movies. I was not looking forward to it, and I've gone to see it twice already. It's really charming. Here's a funny thing. So some of you may know, at least I think many of you know, that my wife, Anne, is currently Anne has 4 degrees, right? She has 4 degrees. There she is. That's us at the Wrexham Manchester United game in San Diego last week. We went down there. But so my wife Ann, she's got 4 degrees, 2 bachelor's, 2 master's degrees, and right now she is currently working on her doctorate, she's going to be the first Dr. Campea. It's going to be Dr. Ann Campea in about a year and a half from now. But one of the classes she takes is on Saturday mornings. And she and I went out this morning to go grab something. And she said, I mean, I don't think doctrinal programs were like this 30 years ago. Like you think students in doctrinal programs are talking about, oh yes, the socioeconomic effect of blah, 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 blah is this and this and this. And Anne was saying when they were on their 5-minute break, her and the other students were talking about how Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is so good. And they were talking about going to the Taylor Swift concert in Los Angeles and how Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is awesome. She said there was like 15 doctrinal students talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Taylor Swift. I said, this is a totally different world from probably how doctrinal programs talked about things a few years ago. So, yeah. So, yes. Anyway, it's a really pleasant, guys, go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I can't believe I'm recommending it, but I am. It's a really fun movie. Go see it when you get a chance. All right. Next up, we got Human After All, who writes, are we actually going to get the Ray Mutant Mayhem spoiler discussion this weekend? No, we're not. Lego Big Dog, chew on this, please. No, unfortunately, we won't be doing that. The reality is, as much as I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's a really good movie, generally we only do open spoiler discussions when we have a movie that enough people go to see that it makes sense for us to do an open spoiler discussion about. Like, we'll review a lot of movies that we see, but we don't do open spoiler discussions for a lot of them. Usually we save that for the ones that a lot of people see, because you can't do an open spoiler discussion for a movie that not a ton of people see, because then nobody can really even watch your video, right? So we tend to save those. And unfortunately, even though I think the movie's really good, not a hell of a lot of people are going to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So at least not enough for us to justify doing an open spoiler discussion. But it is a good movie. You should go see it. It's a lot of fun. All right. Next up, Baked Orc writes, one of two. John, I heard you mention that you might get Baldur's Gate 3 on PS5. Don't. This game truly deserves your time, and I don't want it to be ruined by using a controller. I'll explain that in a second. You can go offline on Steam, share the game to raise account, and play on LAN. Larian has done a fantastic job with the controls on controller, but if you've played on keyboard and mouse before, you will feel like one hand is tied behind your back. It's just really convenient. PC can also do split screen with two controllers. Yeah, I am definitely planning on doing that. Like, I love playing a lot of games, but as much as I am constantly buying and trying to play games on my PS5, my brain just freaking is not, I don't know why. I got some kind of video game controller birth defect. My brain, I should say, is not wired to use a console controller. I am a keyboard and mouse guy. Now, I don't know why. I can operate like, say, Nintendo Switch controller pretty fine, but they're used differently. Here's what it is. I am used to moving my character. Like, go back to an older game like Unreal Tournament, right? I'm used to be able to using my mouse to be able to move, control all the direction I'm going in, look up, look down, move, blah, 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 and just use my one button on my keyboard to move and do all that kind of stuff. My brain, a 4-year-old child can do this, and I can't. My brain is not wired to be able to use one control stick for moving and one control stick for how you look around. It's as simple as walking and chewing fucking bubble gum, and yet my freaking brain I just can't get it. So here's what happens. I buy Diablo 4. This is how bad I am. I buy Diablo 4 on my PlayStation 5, right? Really excited to play it. A bunch of my friends. You guys remember Jen, who was on our show for a while? She was helping us out for a few months. So I was, Jen and her partner Alex, they've been playing like hundreds of hours, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love Diablo 4. You're gonna love Diablo 4." So I buy it for PlayStation 5. I'm super excited about it. I go to Ann in the living room. I say, "Baby, I'm gonna be in the theater room for the next 5 hours. I'm gonna go download Diablo 4, and I'm gonna be playing Diablo 4." Great. 5 minutes later, I'm walking out. Well, I gave up. So I ended up buying it on PC instead. I ended up buying the freaking game twice. So I got on PC instead. But yes, I'm definitely going to be playing Baldur's Gate on PC. Like, here's the thing. I just, like, the game I've played more than any other game, World of Warcraft. I don't know how you would play that on a console. I just have no idea how you would play that on a console. There's like 100 different keystroke things you need to be able to do. Anyway, it's just me. Okay. Next up, we've got another one from Baked Orc, and he writes, one of two. As for the bear scenes in Baldur's Gate 3, there is a druid that has problems with his shape-shifting during moments of passion, if you know what I mean. This scene was revealed in one of their panels from Hell and went viral. You can find it on YouTube if you're curious. This game brings on the filthy hard. You can even choose your genitals. What? From a few from a few options, how you identify, and the body type you go with it. This game is very sex positive with full nudity and ability to have polyamorous relationships. Game of the year. You sold me on bear sex. I remember that came up on the main. Somebody wrote that in. It's like you can have sex with a bear in the game. I'm like, what? That is so different and crazy. I love it. Not that I promote or endorse, nor in any way condone actual real life bear sex, but being able to do crazy things in a video game is pretty cool. All right. Let's see. Next up. Thanks for that, Baked Orc. Next up, we've got Garden Variety Vagabond, who writes, CBS just released its revised fall schedule, best encapsulated by the phrase encore episode. Add in news, football, game shows, and reality TV, and I find zero reason to watch them. And more importantly, zero reason for advertisers to be excited. Yeah, that has everything to do with the actor strike and the writer strikes. And here's the other thing too. We were going to talk about this on the main show the other day, but we didn't because we ran out of time for topics. But a number of the networks are taking upcoming seasons of shows that are done and in the can, and they're actually pushing them back a little bit to try to stretch out how much content they have and how long it's going to, I can't remember which show it was, but there's a new season of a show coming out because it's already done, written, shot in the can and everything. And it was scheduled to come out in like late August, but they've pushed it to like October, not because the show's not ready to go, but because they feel like they need to stretch out how long their content is, their fresh original content. So yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot of reruns, a lot of reality, I use air quotes, reality TV, a few more things with sports, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a hard time for them right now. That's the whole idea. That's the whole point of a strike. All right. Next up, average actress Gal Gadot writes, John, saw Meg 2, and it was okay. One thing that takes me out of immersion is switching between Chinese and English. Is this a studio agreement thing? The actors spoke good English, so it's not even a language barrier thing. This happened in Ms. Marvel too. I've been in situations. Okay, so look, for those of you who don't know, I'm Italian. My real name is Giovanni. And I've been in many situations where whether it's at family events or work. I used to work road construction and stuff like this, and like a lifetime ago. But in many situations where conversations will be happening and then they'll be in English, and then all of a sudden they'll be in Italian. Like, it's really not unusual at all. As a matter of fact, I am married into a Filipino family, right? And all the time, like when we go to their family get-togethers, conversations will be English and all of a sudden they'll be Tagalog, right? They'll be switching back and forth and all that kind of stuff. To me, it doesn't have any sense of unrealism to it. I'm just kind of used to that being the way it functions. Now, as far as why do they do it in a movie like The Meg? I will tell you why. Actually, let me see if I can find this. I'm not 100% sure I can, but let me just double check to see if I can. On the YouTube channel, let me see if I can find it. Like I said, okay, so I'm not 100% sure I can. Where is it? Okay, I did an editorial video a while ago about China and the Hollywood relationship with China. And basically, here's the thing. Very, very few Hollywood movies are allowed to play in China. Very few Hollywood. China has a quota, a limit on how many American-made movies get to play in China every year. It's actually, and it's an incredibly shrinking number. It's very, very small. But, you know, China is the second biggest movie market in the world. So there are ways that a movie can get around the limit quota. And one of those ways is to be partially a Chinese production or have Chinese actors, a certain percentage of the actors in your movie be Chinese. And for a movie like The Meg 2, You know, in front of a lot of movies, you'll see H bros, like when the opening credits, right? You'll see the production company names, whether it's Searchlight or whatever. One of the ones you've probably seen many times, actually John Wick is one of them. You'll see the title card H. Brothers, right? That's a Chinese production company. When they are allowed to be one of the production companies on your movie gets to play in China. And so it's a business decision that they make. So that probably has, I'm sure it's part creative decision, part business decision that they do that. All right. Next up, again, I'll see if I can find the actual video I did on understanding China's relationship with Hollywood. And I'll try after the live video is done, if I remember to do it, to put a link to that video in the description of this open mic. So if you're watching this video after we've done it live, maybe you'll be able to go down and take a look at that. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Tack, who writes, Disney lobbied multiple times for copyright expiration to be pushed back to keep Mickey Mouse from entering public domain. Yeah, this is very common. Will lawmakers use media being taken off streaming services abruptly as an argument for why copyright expiration dates should be left alone? No, there's really no connection between those two different things. So for those of you who know what he's talking about, there is copyright law. And in copyright, and I'm majorly oversimplifying this, but in copyright law, there comes a point when things enter the public domain, that creative works can no longer be owned by somebody. They become public domain, which means anybody can use them, right? It's the reason why, say, remember that James Franco, what was the name of his Wizard? Help me out in the live chat, guys. What was the name of the Wizard of Oz movie that James Franco did? Sam Raimi directed it. Oz, I think it was Oz the Great and Powerful. I think that was the name of it. Anyway, correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat. But it was from the studio that doesn't own the rights to Wizard of Oz. Oh, and you guys are saying Jedediah, Ron H. Yeah, it was Oz the Great and Powerful. Thank you, guys. So the studio that made the movie does not have the rights to the Wizard of Oz. But The Wizard of Oz is based on an original book, and that book is now in the public domain. So this other studio was allowed to come around and make their own kind of movie based on the book Wizard of Oz, even though they don't have the copyright to the movie The Wizard of Oz, right? So that's why, there are other movie studios can make Thor movies if they want, as long as they don't use things that Marvel made up for their Thor character. You can make any Thor movie you want based on the mythology because that's public domain. Anyway, many times the copyright of Mickey Mouse has come up, and somehow, some way, Disney lawyers have found a way to keep pushing that expiration date on the copyright and preventing Mickey Mouse from becoming public domain. And of course they would be. Mickey Mouse is their main mascot. If you're a company, you don't want your main mascot to go into the public domain. So they're going to, and by the way, both DC and Marvel companies are in the middle of some legal battles right now because several DC and Marvel characters are on the brink of going into the public domain. And both those companies are fighting very hard to try to keep that from happening. So again, I've drastically oversimplified it there, but it's really an interesting thing to keep an eye on. All right, guys, that is all of the tip link questions that people sent in. We're now going to move over and start taking questions that you guys have been sending in our super chat. Now, before we do, we're going to take just a second here and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show Open Mic, our friends, my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode. All right, guys, with that down, let's now move over and start taking your live questions that you guys have been sending in. And we're going to start off here with Zachary Chasser, who writes, hey guys, would you say that Mutant Mayhem is on your top 10 movies of the year list so far? I just saw it and I loved it. It's my favorite TMNT film. You know what? I'm going to agree with you that I think it is my all-time favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Actually, you know what? I think it's pretty easily my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And as of right now, I will say it's not my top 5, but yes, as of right now, it's in my top 10 favorite movies of the year. It won't end up being in my top 10 favorite movies by the end of the year. I mean, we got things like Dune coming. We've got Killers of the Flower Moon. We've got Napoleon. We got a lot of good stuff still coming. So it probably won't end up in my top 10, but right now, yeah, I'll say that it is. It's really good. All right, Orange Hand writes, do you think one can be too good at a sport? Teams had to find ways to handle Gretzky or Jordan, but with Otani or Judge, walk 'em, face the next guy. I mean, it's not that you can be too good for your sport. It's that sometimes sports will give you avenues that you can avoid the strength of one of your opponents, right? Whether it's a double team, whether it's walking a certain batter, but then again, walking a batter means automatically putting them on base. So no, I don't. I believe there all throughout the history of sports, different athletes have come along that have revolutionized their games, right? Wayne Gretzky did it. Michael Jordan did it. It's just what happens. And then the game evolves. So no, I don't think you can be too good at a sport. I don't think so. All right. Good question though. Luke1234 writes, if James Gunn's DCEU is a catastrophic failure, do you think Warner Brothers will scrap the shared cinematic universe and just go back to standalone Batman movies? Well, here's the thing. The problem isn't the shared cinematic universe. The problem is individual movies aren't great, right? The problem with the DCEU, now the DCEU, that's what we refer to as the Snyderverse sometimes, right? The problem isn't that the shared cinematic universe didn't work out well. It's that the individual movies did not live up to their potential. If the individual movies were all individually great, or at least I thought a lot of them were good, but a lot of people disagreed, then there wouldn't be a problem. There just wouldn't be a problem. The problem with the current state of the MCU is not that we don't know what the overall story is. That's not the problem. The problem is that the individual movies haven't been as good as they used to be. That's the problem. So if the James Gunn, and remember, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to rebuild DC's image. Like I keep telling people, Superman Legacy is not going to be $1 billion film, right? They have spent a decade ruining the reputation of DC on screen. It's going to take time to rebuild that, right? It's not like they're just going to come out of the gate and Superman Legacy is everything's going to be great. They need to make a great movie, but even when they make a great movie, that's step one. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to reestablish trust, get everybody back on board with DC, and we'll see. But if it doesn't work, the problem isn't the cinematic universe. The problem is they're not making movies that are connecting with people. So that'll kind of be their ultimate problem, I think. All right. That's the wrong screen. Luke1234 writes, what did you think watching the first Matrix movie? I thought it was great. I thought it was a really, really good movie. Sam Fisher writes, I just saw Oppenheimer. I loved it. Robert Downey Jr. deserves an Oscar nomination for his portrayal of Admiral Strauss. I did not expect that third act turn. Robert Downey Jr., I might say it's the best performance he's ever given in a movie. I'm not saying I like him in this movie more than I like him as Tony Stark, but I'm saying pure acting prowess. I think his performance in Oppenheimer is probably the best performance he's ever given. And I include in that his Oscar-nominated performance in Chaplin. I think he's better in this movie than he was in Chaplin. And I expect he will probably get nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards this year. I really do. All right. Metalcore 452 writes, One Piece adaptation debuts August 31st and it has the potential to be a massive series, yet I've seen no coverage and you guys skip any questions related to it. Because no, we don't skip any questions. We've answered the question like 50 times, but we've started skipping the question. Like we've started skipping questions about it, like not on open mic, but like on the John Campea Show, we've started skipping questions because we've answered the question like many times already. I'm not interested in One Piece. I'm not saying you shouldn't be. I'm not saying anybody shouldn't be. I'm not saying One Piece is bad. I'm not criticizing One Piece. I'm just saying I'm not interested in One Piece. I don't know anything about it. I've seen a few things of it and it's not for me and I have no interest in watching it. And so every time a question about One Piece gets brought up, I just have to say the same thing. I don't really know anything about it because the little I've seen doesn't interest me and I'm not planning on watching anything with One Piece. God, I don't watch everything. Nobody watches everything, right? Like I didn't see Insidious, The Red Door. I didn't see Sound of Freedom. I didn't see, like there's lots of stuff I don't watch because there's just too much to watch. And since there is so much to watch, I don't, if there's something that really doesn't interest me, I just generally skip it. Now, I'll make an exception once in a while. Like, hey, listen, if it wasn't for the fact that Ray is so in love with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I might not have gone to see it. But because Ray is so in love with it and so passionate about it, fine, we went to go see it. But yeah, so there's just no point. Like when we're doing the main John Campea Show and so many people are sending in questions and we only have a limited amount of time, we never get a chance to get around to all the questions that get sent in. So there's no point in us wasting screen time answering yet another question about One Piece when I'm just going to give the same answer I've given 20 times before. If you love it, awesome, but it's not for me. I'm not interested in it and I don't watch it. So I really have no input. I really have no input to give other than that. So yeah, that's just kind of the case with that. All right, next up, we've got Alan S. who writes, Hey, John, I finally got to see Oppenheimer today and it was freaking incredible. This movie needs to be seen in theaters. Amazing experience. Again, it's Christopher Nolan, so I was expecting something great, right? I was expecting it to be great. I wasn't ready for how great this movie is. Now, I still have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as my #1 film of the year, but Oppenheimer is a really close second for me. And then after that is probably Air, the Ben Affleck movie. But I mean, Oppenheimer is it's insanely good. It's going to be a major presence at the upcoming Oscars. And maybe, just maybe, we might see Christopher Nolan finally get his Best Director Academy Award. He's going to be up against some heavy competition, but we'll see. All right. Again, I keep going to the wrong screen. Next up, Tucker Flynn writes, I have seen every wide release so far this year. I work at a theater. That's a great benefit of working at a theater, man. And my top 5 as of now is 5, Good Person with Morgan Freeman and Florence Pugh. Number 4, Oppenheimer. Number 3, Air. Number 2, Spider-Verse. Number 1, Barbie. Thoughts? I mean, I love your list. I was just saying Spider-Verse would be my number 1. Air would be my number 3 and Oppenheimer would be my number 2. Barbie doesn't get in my top 5 right now. It is in my top 10. It doesn't get in my top 5 right now, but that is a really good list. I like the diversity of your list as well. It's always good when you don't just see the same type of movie on people's top lists. All right, next up, we go back to Tucker. And Tucker writes, do you think without the strikes, we would have had a Fantastic Four and or mutant casting announcements by now? Probably not, because this is what I would say to that. The writer's strike certainly isn't preventing casting announcements being made. Actors' strikes is. And the actors have only been on strike for a couple of weeks, right? They actually haven't been on strike all that long. So It's not like it's the writer strike where the writers have been on strike for 3 months, and maybe that could have bumped it. The actors have only been on strike for a couple of weeks. So there is a chance that maybe we would have gotten those casting announcements by now, but I wouldn't say it's likely. I wouldn't say it's likely. I mean, I would have expected the announcements probably soon, but not necessarily just in the last couple of weeks. Good question, though. All right, next up. Tori, the K-pop girl, writes, over under 5 years till a stage adaptation of Barbie. Oh, probably under, but it'll probably be, I don't think it'll be a stage adaptation of the movie. I think you'll probably just get a Barbie stage play that will probably be original. I don't know that for sure, but that's going to be my guess for now, but probably sooner rather than later. All right, next up. Also from Tori, the K-pop girl, who writes, also, John, have you ever heard of a movie called Go from 1999? Yeah, Timothy Oliphant, I think, isn't Katie Holmes in that? Correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat, guys, but wasn't Katie Holmes in Go? Anyway, directed by Doug Liman. Oh, anyway, let me go on to that. It was part of the wave of Pulp Fiction inspired films, but it's pretty good in my opinion. Yeah, and Doug Liman directed that movie. And it was a poster that used to be around everywhere because you had the girl, it's kind of the yellow background poster with the word go and the girl in the front of the poster. Like that was a poster that was around absolutely everywhere. And Denny Willett in the live chat saying, yes, it was. Yeah, that's the one with Katie Holmes in it. Anyway, Doug Liman was the director of that. And he's directed, what was the name of the Tom Cruise movie he directed? I'm freezing on it. But Doug Liman, I've actually worked with Doug Liman. He was my director in the Hayden Christensen movie, Jumper, a movie I was in. I'm in 2 scenes in Jumper as an extra, by the way. Oh yeah, thank you. Caillou and Magnum are saying Edge of Tomorrow was the movie that he directed. Thank you for that. God, I love that movie. Anyway, Jumper, I was an extra in that. It was one of those, it was back when I was doing the movie blog and I had been invited to go down and be on set, and I actually got to be an extra, and you can see me in 2 scenes. One of the big games people have online is finding a picture of me in the Incredible Hulk. Now see if you can find a picture of me in Jumper. There's the thing. I am hard to find in Jumper. It's like a Where's Waldo thing. I really like Doug Liman as a director. And I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen Go, but I enjoyed Go. If I remember correctly, I thought that was a pretty good movie. All right. Dr. Stinky writes, went to the theater and Haunted Mansion and Sound of Freedom are completely sold out. They don't have a big box office. Weird. Love you, John. Keep being great. Well, I mean, see, that's the thing about, there are people who are like, man, the box office says this movie isn't making any money, but I was there on Thursday and it was completely packed. Or the box office is saying this one movie is making tons of money, but I went to a theater and it was completely empty. Guys, a lot of these movies, when they're in wide release, are playing in like thousands of theaters. And just because you go into one theater where it's packed, that doesn't mean the theaters are packed on all the other 2,999 theaters, right? And so maybe the movie isn't actually making any money. Maybe it just so happens that in your theater in St. Louis, at that specific 7 p.m. showtime that you went to just happened to be a screening that a lot of people went to. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe there's a movie like Oppenheimer just crossed $500 million, right? And you go like, well, I was in Kansas City and I went to a theater and the theater was practically empty. Okay, sure. In that one particular theater that you were in for that one time, at that one specific time of the evening, on that one specific day, maybe your theater was practically empty. But that doesn't mean the other 2,999 ones are. Like, it's very... we should resist the urge or temptation to think my one 300-seat theater is a microcosm of what all the theaters across America are like for this one movie right now, right? So you got to make sure you don't fall into that little trap. All right. Next up, thanks for sharing that, Dr. Stinky. Let's see. Next up, we have Nicholas, who writes, do you prefer the white or blue Maple Leaf jersey? White. I definitely prefer the white one. See, the NHL is different now. It used to be, like when I was a kid growing up, when you were playing at home, you wore your light color jerseys. And when you were on the road, you wore your dark color jerseys. But I think they've reversed that now. Like I think it's a standard thing now that when you play at home, you play your darker color jerseys. And when you play on the road, you wear your lighter color jerseys. When I was a kid growing up and falling in love with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the home jerseys were the white jerseys. So white with blue rather than blue with white. And I don't know why. I just really prefer the lighter color jerseys for home and the white. So the white jerseys was the one I grew up with and that I love the most. So I prefer the lighter colored jerseys for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, next up, we've got Cody Carroll, who writes, in the AMC trailer, Nicole Kidman sits down and a drink appears that she didn't have while walking up the stairs. Did she take someone else's drink and seat? Here's the funny thing about that AMC Theaters ad. You guys know how I feel about that AMC Theaters ad. I'm so sick of it. But the funny thing is, the message of that trailer, the message of that AMC commercial is nobody goes to AMC theaters. Because she's like, we come to this place, and she steps in this puddle of water and she looks up at AMC theaters. You know what's not around? Any people. There's no people there. Nobody is going. The message of that trailer is nobody's coming to this AMC theater. And then she's walking inside. We come to this place to laugh, to cry. And she's walking down the hallway of the theater. And you know what you don't see? Any people. No people in the theater. The message of the commercial is nobody comes to AMC theaters. And then she walks into the theater and she goes, when the lights go down, and she's looking around the theater. And you know what you don't see inside the theater? Any people. No people at AMC theater. So while you have an interesting theory that she stole somebody's drink, I contend there was nobody else in the AMC theater for her to steal that drink from. Because the message of that miserable commercial is nobody comes to AMC theaters. Nobody's outside, nobody's walking down the halls, and there ain't nobody in the theater. And even then when she's sitting in her seat going, oh, wow, look at this moving images. Our heroes are the best of us. There's nobody sitting around her. Nobody there. The message of AMC's Nicole Kidman ad is that nobody goes to AMC theaters, which is just another reason why that commercial is so stupid. I hate that commercial so much. Anyway, thank you for your theory, Cody. Appreciate it. All right, next up, we got Bobby Jackson, who writes, I was thinking about that Harry Potter series for Max and who could showrun it. Do you think they would go for Greg Berlanti? No, I do not. Anyway, do you think they could go for Greg Berlanti? No, I do not. Since he has a deal with Warner Brothers and is a successful showrunner, look, all due respect for what Greg Berlanti, and he's done more than just the Arrowverse. He's done more than just the Arrowverse. And all due respect for what he made with the Arrowverse. Some of it was great. Some of it was not so good. But does anybody want a Harry Potter property that feels anything like a CW show? Does anybody anywhere in any country want any kind of Harry Potter property that feels anything like the Arrowverse? Now listen, and I don't mean that to shit talk the Arrowverse. The Arrowverse was great for what it was. If you wanted campy, cheesy CW superheroes, hey, some of the shows they made were pretty good. Campy, cheesy CW. So I loved the first couple seasons of Arrow. I loved most of The Flash. I really liked a good portion of Black Lightning. Some of the stuff they made was not so good, but nobody wants a Harry Potter franchise that feels anything like a Greg Berlanti show. Now, also, let me qualify that by saying, just because Greg Berlanti made that one style of show, like a whole bunch of those style of shows, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing Greg Berlanti can do. M. Joseph B. saying, didn't he produce Riverdale? I don't know if he produced Riverdale, but if he did, another point for nobody wants that feel of anything coming anywhere close to Harry Potter. It's great for what it is, but you don't want that in Harry Potter, right? Okay, let me tell you guys a story. Let me tell you a little story. Just as an example. I've been going down this rabbit hole lately. I don't know why. I came across, Ann and I used to watch The Voice. We haven't watched it for a bunch of years, but I used to like The Voice. I love the blind auditions, right? And for some reason, a couple of videos popped up in my YouTube feed. This is, again, was one of those examples of when John does the show alone, he goes off on tangents when Jonathan and Ray aren't here to keep me on track. But follow me along. Yeah, I actually do have a point. So follow me here. So a couple of YouTube videos started popping up in my recommended feed of like biggest surprise auditions on The Voice or biggest shocks on America's Got Talent or something like that, right? And I started going down this rabbit hole where you got to understand, I do not cry in movies. There's nothing wrong with crying in movies, but I just don't. I've only cried in a movie like maybe 4 times total. I get emotional, but I don't cry in movies. Maybe there's something wrong with me, whatever. I don't cry in movies. Maybe 4 in my life made me cry. The one that made me cry the hardest is the end of Life is Beautiful. Oh my God. Anyway. But for some reason, these freaking audition videos, like a 13-year-old girl. I'm telling you this. I watched this video yesterday and I was ashamed of myself. I was sobbing like a baby. This 13-year-old girl comes out on stage and she's super adorable and super cute. And she's so nervous and she's like really mousy and she could tell she's completely scared. And then she starts singing this song, a Janis Joplin song of all things. And if you guys know Janis Joplin, ain't nobody can sing Janis Joplin. And this little 13-year-old girl starts singing Janis Joplin. And when she finishes and people are cheering for her, she's like this little girl is bawling her eyes out and crying. And then frickin' good Canadian kid, Howie Mandel, I guess was a judge on it. And Howie Mandel goes, kid, and hits the golden buzzer. I never knew what the golden buzzer was before, but hits the golden buzzer. And this girl breaks down so much her dad comes on stage and this little girl runs to her daddy, jumps in the air and jumps into his arms as she's just weeping and crying and blah, blah, blah. And fuck you. I started crying like a fucking baby. I really did. I'm like I turned into this sobbing fucking, so fuck you, this stupid video making me cry. So I start bawling my eyes out. Okay, what's the point of that story? The point of that story is I loved her in that. I loved her for what it was. She was on stage of America's Got Talent. And she was great. Now, ask me if I want her playing defensive line for the New England Patriots. No. I'm not saying she's not great, but she's great over there. She's not great. She would not be great as a defensive lineman for the New England Patriots. That was all to say that, hey, what Greg Berlanti did on CW, that was great for the CW, for cheesy, kind of cringy, but fun, schlocky CW stuff. It was great. But that's over there. I do not want Greg Berlanti over here doing a Harry Potter thing. Now, again, I say that with the full acknowledgement that just because we've only really seen him do things over here, that doesn't mean he can't do this too. I'm acknowledging that. But I'm saying there's a lot of other creatives that I think have more experience over on this side that would probably be better choices for a Harry Potter thing. Anyway, that was a really long answer to a very short question because once again, John goes off the rails when he's doing the show by himself. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Bobby. Appreciate you, man. All right. Next up. Naz Plays 83 writes, sends in like a $32 super chat. Dude, thank you so much for supporting our channel on that level, man. That's incredibly generous of you. Let's see. Naz writes, are you planning to see Talk to Me? I would like to hear your thoughts about it. The directors are Australian YouTubers who made their directorial debut and sold it to A24. The movie is great. I'm so proud of them as an Aussie myself. Listen, I'll tell you what. I was not really up on Talk to Me. And then we gathered around, it was, I think last week sometime, me, Ray, Jonathan, Chris, we were in studio. We gathered around and we stood around Ray's computer and watched the trailer for Talk to Me. I got to tell you, it's a creepy trailer, man. It's a solid trailer. Now, it came out in theaters this past week, but, or last weekend. However, that weekend was completely booked for me. It was Ray's birthday celebrations. Ann and I had a couple of significant things we were doing in Los Angeles that week or that weekend. We had TMNT that we had to see. There was just no opportunity for me to see Talk to Me. Now, I am intrigued by this movie. I really am. I'm very, very intrigued by it. I don't know that I'm going to get a chance to see it in theater. But you know what? There's not a lot coming out in the next couple of weeks. Maybe I will. I won't review it because you know me, if I can't see a movie the opening week that it comes out, the opening weekend that it comes out in theaters, I don't do a review for it. That's just been me all the way back to the movie blog days. Like that's been kind of my policy for the last 15 years. If I can't see a movie and it's at least by the end of its opening weekend, I don't do a review for it. But I think I will try to go out and see it because like I said, I am intrigued by it. I am very much intrigued by it. The trailer looks great and I'm hearing good things about it. So yeah, here's hoping. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Naz. And again, thank you so much for supporting our channel on that level, man. That was really, really generous of you. All right. Next up, we got Joe Adonis T sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Joe Adonis, for supporting us on that level. And Joe Adonis writes 1 of 2. Hey, John, I was watching Superpowered, the story of DC. I have not watched this yet, but I really do want to see it. The story of DC, and realized Joker won an Oscar from 2 different actors. Yeah, we've talked about that on the show, Ledger and Phoenix. So I found out that there have only been 3 characters in the near 100-year Oscar history that has 2, Anita by Moreno and Du Bois. That's right, from West Side Story. And Vito Corleone, Marlon Brando, and Robert De Niro. But Joker holds the distinction of it not being from a remake or a sequel. Fascinating. Yeah, and I remember when Joaquin Phoenix got that nomination for Joker, we talked about that at length, right? Like how rare it was. And then Anna Du Bois got nominated for the same role that Rita Moreno got nominated for. And of course, Rita Moreno was also in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. By the way, tremendously, tremendously underrated movie. I have no idea why more people didn't go see it. That movie should have been a hit. It is spectacular. And listen, if you remember, was like, hey, Steven Spielberg's the greatest filmmaker of all time, but why the hell is he doing a remake of West Side Story? Why are you doing, that's a dumb idea. And then I went to go see it and I'm like, oh my God, that's why he did West Side Story. It's so good. Anna Du Bois won the Academy Award for it. You should definitely check it out if you didn't get a chance. But yeah, when Joaquin got nominated, we talked about that on the show a bunch, that it was only happened a couple of times. At that point, obviously the Du Bois ones hadn't happened yet. So at that point, it was only Joker and Vito Corleone. But with Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro. So yeah, it's happened very, very infrequently. It's a very rare thing that happens. Well pointed out. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Joe Adonis. Appreciate it, man. All right. Mickey Veach writes, I'm a bit out of touch, but was there ever truth to Kathleen Kennedy leaving Lucasfilm after Indiana Jones? Or that turn out to be hearsay? Oh no. Listen, I'm telling you, I told you guys, the decision's already been made. She's out. She's out. And I said, they are not going to do anything until after Indiana Jones, whether it's a few weeks after Indiana Jones or before the end of the year, but 100% before the end of the year, she'll be out. Now, look, something may happen behind the scenes that changes that between now and then. I can't actually guarantee, like I'm using hyperbole when I say, I guarantee by the end of the year, she'll be out. I can't actually guarantee that. Who knows what has happened behind the scene, but I feel very confident in telling you from the information I've been given from people inside of Disney that decision's already been made. Like, she's already looking for what she's doing next, but they weren't going to announce anything until after Indiana Jones, whether it was going to be a few weeks after Indiana Jones or by the end of 2023. But I will be completely shocked and stunned. And by the way, with the major flopping of Indiana Jones, only really drove that point home. But yeah, by the end of the year, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if it's by the end of September. Like, forget October, November, December. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's by the end of September. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying I won't be surprised at all. She is being shown the door. Yeah. Okay. Next up. Why did my lights turn off? What just happened? The power's not out because the cameras are still on. Hold on a second. Okay. Oh, okay. It's one of these motion detector things. If the room detects that nobody's in the room, it'll automatically turn the lights off. So, and I've got you can't see it, but I got a big, like 75-inch TV on a roller over here that's blocking the sensor from me. So probably couldn't detect me moving. So I had to roll my chair back and wave my arm at it. It's like, why are the lights turning out? It's Kathleen Kennedy coming to get me. All right. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. So, okay. So that was Mickey Veach's question. Thanks for that, Mickey. Next up, the Super Ranger Mud Truck writes, hey, John, just wanted to ask, what's your favorite or most memorable early 80s, 90s movie? Mine is probably Airplane or Dumb and Dumber. Hilarious. They don't make them like they used to. That's for sure. I mean, look, here's the reality. I'm terrible with dates, with movie dates. I can't remember if something came out in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, the 1940s, and 1960s. It's hard for me. But I mean, obviously those are great eras for movies. You've got your Star Wars movies in there, obviously, after the original Star Wars. So, I mean, obviously Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, those are going to be the ones that come up first and foremost to me. But I don't know why. But whenever I think of 1980s movies, the movie that comes to mind most is the movie that me and Rob will debate the most about, because he hated this movie. And it is awful, but it's awesomely awful. And that's a movie called Megaforce. That's basically a G.I. Joe wannabe kind of thing. It's an elite military group put together by all the freedom-loving nations of the world. And there's under the command of a guy named Ace. And he's the hero of it. And they have these high-tech motorcycles and weaponized vehicles and all this kind of stuff. And it is, oh my God, it's cheesy and dumb as hell in so many ways, but I thought it was awesome. And the big, tagline of the hero Ace in it is, life is like a wheel. It all comes around. Stupid line, I know. But I loved Megaforce. And, Saturday Morning Fan is putting out other great iconic ones. Gremlins, Ghostbusters, Raiders. It was such an iconic, great era for movies for sure. All right. Let's see. Next up, we have Thomas. And Thomas writes, if Barbie is nominated for screenplay, will it be original or adapted? It could be either. Lego Movie is based on a toy and was nominated as original. Oh, yeah, because look, let's say it would absolutely be original because it's not based on a previous work. Whether or not a screenplay is considered an original screenplay or an adaptation is it about something that exists. It's about whether it's based on a creative work about that thing that already exists. For example, I believe, and somebody in the live chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Oppenheimer would be considered an adapted screenplay because Christopher Nolan based it on a previous existing work. Not because Oppenheimer was a real guy, but because rather there was, I think, a book written about it that Christopher Nolan based the movie on that book. If I'm remembering this correctly, I can't remember. But no, something is not considered an adapted screenplay if it's just based on a thing. Adapted screenplays determine if there is already a creative work made about that thing and you're basing it on that. Then that would be. So no, Barbie, I believe, is not based. It wasn't based on any other creative work. So if Barbie gets nominated for Best Screenplay, it will be for original. Unless it was based on some book that somebody wrote that I had never heard about. If that's the case, then it would be. But if it's not based on a pre-existing work, then it will be considered an original screenplay. Okay, next up. We've got Big Mouth Stan, who writes, are spoilers for biopics like Oppenheimer technically spoilers since they're based off of historical events? You know what? This is a very, very good question. It's a debate I've had many times. Because here's the point and counterpoint of that, right? Let's say you watch a movie about, let's say Oppenheimer. And you say, well, then when you find out that Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Admiral Strauss, does this, and people say, whoa, 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 time out there, buddy. That's a big spoiler. It's like, yeah, but it's based on actual historical events. I mean, is it a spoiler to tell you that the Titanic sank? And they go, whoa! But you know what I mean, right? Is it a spoiler to let somebody know that the Titanic sank? Now, what the counterpoint to that is I mean, everybody knows the Titanic sank, but not everybody, because, the events of Oppenheimer took place like before I was born, before probably many of you were born. The events of Oppenheimer, although they are true events, a lot of people may or may not know those events, and therefore to them, it'll be a spoiler. And so I'm always kind of torn in that. Same can be said about movies based on books, right? It's like Lord of the Rings. Everybody knows Lord of the Rings, so you can talk about what happens in it, but not everybody has read Lord of the Rings. It is an ongoing debate. I personally don't think if a movie is based on true big historical events, I don't think anything in it should be considered a spoiler. Unless you're talking about something like, what would be a good example? Inglourious Bastards, right? So let's say you got Inglourious Bastards. That movie is sort of based on true events, the events of World War II. But you know that movie is not exactly historically accurate, right? He took some creative liberties. So you may not want to say, well, Hitler dies in this one, and this isn't, well, okay, yeah. It's sort of based around real life, Hitler, the Nazis, World War II, but it doesn't exactly follow real history. So maybe because I don't know. It's a good question. It is going to be a debate that will continue to be debated upon for many, many, many years. All right. Good question, Big Mouth Stan. Next up, Future Millionaire writes, I canceled my Meg 2 tickets for Mutant Mayhem after your out of the theater review. I'll catch it on Max in about 2 to 3 months. Hey, look, let me say this. First of all, I think you made a very wise decision, but if you were on the fence about seeing Meg 2, then yeah, if you heard me come out of the theater and say, guys, this movie sucks, then yeah, don't go see it. But I would also say this. If you've been really excited about Meg 2, then I would say you should still go see it. Like, take what I said and maybe what some other reviewers said and allow that to temper your expectations, but don't let it dissuade you that if you were really looking forward to going to see it and you were excited about, you had your tickets, you were going to go, I would say you should still go. Just because, like I said, all art is subjective. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you won't necessarily like it. So again, if you were on the fence about it, yeah, maybe a good idea that you canceled your tickets. But if you were really excited about it, just take what I said, use it to temper your expectations so you're prepared. So you're prepared. And still go see it. That would be my take on it anyway. But I hope you really enjoyed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All right, thanks for that, Future Millionaire. Let's see here. Where are we at? Cockroach77 writes, hey, John, adding on to the Talk to Me hype, it was pretty great. Reminded me of Hereditary. I've heard people make that comparison to Hereditary in terms of atmosphere. Would recommend if you get the chance. Again, I have not heard. Now, don't get me wrong. I haven't had tons of people telling me to go see it, but out of all the people who have talked to me about it, none of them have said they didn't like it. None of them have said they didn't like it. Like, out of the like dozen or so people who've written to me to talk about it, all of them have liked it. So that's a pretty good endorsement, actually. All right. Bobby Jackson writes, even though you said the Meg 2 was really bad, just think of how much worse it would have been if AI wrote it. Yeah. And actually, I think I wouldn't be surprised. The writing in the movie is so bad and the dialogue is so bad that I honestly will not fall over out of shock and surprise if at some point I find out that it was actually written by AI. I'm not saying it did. I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying I won't die of shock if I find out it was. All right. Casinema writes, highly recommend My Adventures with Superman. It's charming and fun. I was skeptical about Jack Quaid as Superman, but he's perfect for this iteration. I gotta be honest with you, Casinema, I have zero interest. Ray had me sit down and watch the trailer for it, and I have no interest in that. I have no interest in that kind of a style of a Superman story. Now, that's not to say that other people shouldn't watch it and enjoy it. And if it's great for you and it works for you, awesome. Not everything. That's the beautiful thing about art. Not everything is for everybody. And I have zero interest in that My Adventures with Superman. It is not the kind of thing that's for me. But that's not to say it shouldn't be for you or it shouldn't be for other people. It's clearly not for me, so I probably won't be using my time to watch that. I still haven't gotten around to start watching the new season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And everybody's telling me that it's absolutely amazing, and I haven't had a chance to get started on that. So I'm certainly not going to take time to watch something that I'm not looking forward to. And again, I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. I'm not saying people shouldn't like it. I'm just saying I looked at it, and it's going to be for a lot of people, but it's not for me. So I'm probably going to take a pass on it, to be honest with you. But thank you for the recommendation, man. I appreciate that. Okay. Next up, we've got Peter Bennett, who writes, hey, John, been a fan since your 4-year consideration days. Thank you so much for that. Wanted to know if you like the latest Mortal Kombat movie, and if you are looking forward to the new one, go Leafs and go Sharks. I did not like the newest Mortal Kombat movie. Now there were certainly some great moments. Like, I'm sorry, that Sub-Zero Scorpion fight, when Sub-Zero cuts a fool, freezes the flying blood from the guy into a spike, and then stabs the guy with a spike made from his own blood. Come on. That is pure liquid awesome. Absolutely pure liquid awesome. There are things about the newest Mortal Kombat that were okay, but overall, I gotta say, I was pretty let down by it. I was really hoping for something better. Now, as a result of the fact that I wasn't really a big fan of the newest movie, it's hard to be excited for the sequel when you didn't really like the original. So, hey, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna leave my expectations at the door. And hopefully the sequel can pleasantly surprise me, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did, like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And by the way, there have been movies that I didn't like. There have been franchises where I didn't like the original movie, but I love the sequel. For Rush Hour, I hated the first Rush Hour with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. I hated the first one, but I love the sequel. Rush Hour 2, love it. And then I went back to hating it for Rush Hour 3. But still, I mean, it happens, right? So hopefully that'll happen with Mortal Kombat for me. All right. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. And thank you for watching since my 4-year consideration days. All right. Let's see. Mr. 47 writes, do you and Ann go to the OC Fair at all? I have never heard of the OC Fair, but Ann and I do go to OC quite often. There's a great thing in Irvine called the Spectrum Center. We love going to downtown Anaheim. We love being out there, but I'm not quite sure what the OC Fair is, to be honest with you. All right. Bobby Jackson writes, while I want all MCU and Star Wars Disney Plus shows to be good, I can't tell you how hard my fingers are crossed that they knock the Ahsoka series out of the park. Dude, you and me both. You and me both. Now, I've never been traditionally a fan of the Ahsoka character, but I started to warm up to Ahsoka in the Star Wars Rebels series, and I really like Rosario Dawson's iteration of her in Mandalorian and what we've seen of her so far. So I'm looking forward to the show. I think the trailers have been really good. I really loved the Rebel series. It's weird. I didn't like Clone Wars. And I know most Star Wars fans really like the Clone Wars animated series. I didn't like it. But even though it's the exact same people who made Rebels, I ended up really liking Rebels a lot. And basically, Ahsoka it's just Star Wars Rebels. It's a live action Star Wars Rebels. So I really want it to be good. But the main reason I really want it to be good is because, man, they've been struggling. Right? I mean, yeah, they have Andor, which is probably the best Star Wars thing ever since the original trilogy. I feel really, it is the best Star Wars anything since the original trilogy. And the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian were great. But you had Mandalorian season 3, which wasn't very good. You had Obi-Wan, which wasn't really good. You had the Book of Boba Fett, which was just embarrassing. So yeah, I'm with you, man. All fingers crossed that this Ahsoka series is good. I really hope it is. They really need a win to follow up on Andor. They really do. And hopefully this can be it. And not to mention, they've got this planned Dave Filoni movie that is going to be, the wrapping up of the Mandoverse. So Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, it's going to bring it all into one movie that they're going to make for theaters. And Mandalorian season 3 was not that great. And if Ahsoka's not great either, what's there going to be to look forward to? So I'm with you, man. Again, I like the look of the trailers. I think the trailers look sharp. I'm excited for it. So here's hoping it turns out well. All right. Mega Red writes, do you use Letterboxd, a movie review / logging app? No, I've never used it. It's funny because I've been asked that for years, but I have personally never used it. And yeah, so there's that. All right, next up. Remy Alistra writes, hey, John, I still insist that fatigue has set in for the MCU. No, it hasn't. Gunn's DCU could be a fresh start for the genre, a shot in the arm, if you will. Also, I agree to your wannabe optimist when I grew up. Damn it. I wanted to be Optimus Prime when I grew up. Damn it. Yeah, again, look, my basic thing, and I think the numbers have proved it, there is no such thing as comic book movie fatigue. There's just not. What we are seeing is mediocrity fatigue. Look, you got to remember, I've been doing this for a long time. And even as far back as my days working at AMC, when I was doing AMC Movie Talk, people were constantly writing in all the time, comic book movie fatigue is setting in now. That was like over a decade ago. Comic book movie fatigue is going to set in now. And then the next year, comic book movie is going to set in now. And the next year, comic book movies fatigue is going to set in now. And every year, more and more of the comic book movies, and particularly the Marvel movies, were hitting the billion dollar mark, and went on that way for a decade. People didn't just all of a sudden get tired of it. My brothers and sisters of film fandom, it is not a coincidence that the moment the MCU's quality started to drop off is the exact same time that people's interest in the MCU has started to, what's the best word for it? Soften. It's not a coincidence. Because I'm telling you right now, if Marvel in Phase 4 and Phase 5 had kept on with the intensity and the quality level of Phases 1, 2, and 3, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. But the problem is, we started getting things like Black Widow, which is fine, I guess. We're living now in the era where Marvel is putting out She-Hulk, which was not fine. Where they're putting out things like Hawkeye, which was at best okay. Where they're putting out things like Moon Knight, which again was at best okay. Where they're putting out things like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was not okay. Where they're putting out things like Thor: Love and Thunder, which while I generally liked it, it was a huge step backwards from the greatness that was Thor Ragnarok. Guys, it is not a coincidence that as Marvel's quality has dropped tremendously, and again, every once in a while, Marvel still puts out something that's great, right? Shang-Chi, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Ms. Marvel, WandaVision, sure. But for every one great thing they're putting out two things that are either not good at all or just basically okay. So it is not a coincidence that now is when people are starting to get lukewarm on the MCU at the same time that the MCU quality is getting pretty lukewarm. But again, when Guardians of the Galaxy comes out, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 comes out, and it's really good, boom, makes over $800 million, right? It's not a coincidence. So yeah, I still firmly contend that the issue is not a fatiguing of Marvel. It's a fatiguing of the lack of quality Marvel has given us in the last couple of years. Because they've been cranking out a lot of content, and a lot of that content hasn't been very good. It's hard to stay excited. You know, we were just talking about, a few minutes ago, we were talking about Mortal Kombat, right? It's hard for me to be excited about the next Mortal Kombat movie that's coming out when I didn't like the last one very much. Okay, now put yourself in the shoes of an average moviegoer, right? And it's not just the last thing, but maybe the last 5 or 6 things from Marvel that you've seen that you haven't been all that thrilled with. What's your anticipation level going to be for the next Marvel thing? Not very good, not very high. If you have a favorite restaurant and then you go again and the meal wasn't very good, and then you go again, and again, the food quality seems to have dropped. And then you go a third time, and again, the meal quality dropped. Are you still going to be excited about going back to that restaurant? No, your excitement level is going to drop because your experience with it has dropped. Our experience with the MCU has dropped. The experiences that the MCU have been giving us, the quality of those experiences have greatly reduced in the last couple of years. And as a result, our anticipation or the amount we'll look forward to the next thing that they're putting out also drops. You know, Jonathan Voico and I were having this conversation the other day about, I can't remember which, it's one of the Marvel shows. Oh, it's the Marvels. It's the Marvels coming out, right? And Jonathan was saying, I'm just telling you, it's just hard for me to get excited because Ant-Man and the Wasp was what it was. She-Hulk was what it was. Moon Knight was what it was. Secret Invasion just ended up being a big disappointment. So again, compared to a restaurant, if you go 3 or 4 times in a row to a restaurant and you don't have a good experience, you're not going to be all that jazzed about going to that restaurant again. You keep going back to the MCU and you have 4 or 5 experiences in a row that aren't all that good. How excited are you going to be for the next one? Not very. And I really truly believe that that is the situation that we have with the MCU, with what people perceive to be comic book movie fatigue. It's not comic book movie fatigue, guys. It's bad experience fatigue. It's mediocrity fatigue that we're getting. Because I'll guarantee you this, if Marvel put out 3 incredible movies in a row, and 3 incredible Disney Plus shows in a row, you wouldn't be hearing anybody talking about comic book movie fatigue. You wouldn't be hearing anybody talking about MCU fatigue. They'll all just be talking about how great these movies are, how great these shows are, and now how we can't wait to see the next thing. But that's not the case. That's not what we've been getting. We've been getting, pardon my French, bags of shit. At least by Marvel standards. We've been getting bags of shit. And as long as you keep handing out bags of shit, no one's going to want to go get your bags. Anyway, this is kind of my take on it. All right, last 2 questions of the day here, guys. Seconds from Disaster writes, number 1 of 2. Do you think the studio should negotiate? Do you think the studio should negotiating on benefits and not the union itself? In my trade, our employers give us benefits, not the companies we have contracts with. Why not raise dues and give benefits to union members? Well, studio do you think I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking, Seconds from Disaster, to be honest with you. Do you think the studio should negotiating on benefits and not the union itself. I don't know what you mean by that. One of the things that the unions are asking for is increased benefits, right? That's one of the core things that they're negotiating for. So I'm not really sure what it is. We have contracts with, okay, our employers gives us benefits, not the companies. Well, the companies are your employers, right? Your companies are your employers. They're not two different entities. The company you work for is your employer. Your employer is the company you work for. Why not raise dues and give benefits to union members? When you're talking about raising union dues, how does that help the union? Like if I'm the one who has to give money to support me, then I'm not getting out ahead of the deal, right? I need the employer to kick in for benefits, right? Again, I'm sure what we have here, Seconds from Disaster, is just that I'm misunderstanding probably what it is you're asking. So forgive me for that. But yeah, even MSK in the live chat is saying, I don't understand what it is he's asking. But yes, your trade employers, in my trade, our employers gives us benefits, not the companies. Again, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that because they are one and the same. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's special weekend installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being along with me here today, guys, as we went in and did. This has been kind of a long one, again, because when John's left alone and doesn't have Jonathan and Ray to keep me on track, I tend to go off on tangents and ramble a bit. So I'm sorry for that, but I hope you had a good time. I love being here with you guys here today. Don't forget, come back and join us on Monday. We're looking forward to seeing you guys this coming week. We're gonna have a lot of things to talk about. You see that the WGA and the producers actually started meeting again. That's a huge step forward. Even if they didn't agree on anything, just the fact that they're finally sitting down and talking to each other again, that is a huge step forward. Hopefully we can get all the strike stuff behind us sooner rather than later. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.